And now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. Roma Wines presents
Suspense. Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Mr. John Lund as star of A Plain Case of Murder, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spear.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those excellent California wines that can add so much pleasantness to the way you live, to your happiness in entertaining guests, to your enjoyment of everyday meals. Yes, right now, a glassful would be very pleasant, as Roma Wines bring you the young actor who has just made such an auspicious screen debut in the Paramount picture, To Each His Own. John Lund appears as Randy, with Kathy Lewis as Marion, in tonight's tale of
Suspense. How are you feeling now, Judson?
Lousy. You the doctor?
That's right.
Who are those other two guys?
They're from the district attorney's office.
Suppose I might have known. First thing I opened my eyes, I'd see those vultures hovering around.
I suppose right, all right. Gonna tell us about it?
Why should I?
Just to keep the record straight and save us a lot of trouble. And you've got nothing to lose.
How do you figure that?
Because they're going to carry you out of here with a sheet over your face before morning.
Is that right, Doc?
Afraid that's right.
Okay.
Take this down, Scotty.
Gotcha.
You can call it a plain case of murder. Spelled P-L-A-N-E. I make joke. Get it?
Yeah. Very, very funny.
I'd been home 3 weeks when I finally broke down and called her, and she said to come on out. Her husband wouldn't be home. It's funny. I'd already met Dorothy, but I called Marion anyway. Maybe I was crazy with hate even then. Maybe it was what I'd been through. Stuck in one of those civilian concentration camps out in the Philippines for 3 long years. And all the time dreaming about Marion. Making up endless little scenes about how happy I was going to be when it was all over with Marion. Till it seemed that all I was living and fighting for was Marion. The whole war was just for Marion. And then to come back and find she's married to this other guy. Something like that'll do things to you, no matter how good you are. And so, when she told me to come out, I went. Why? A sort of horrible fascination, I suppose, to see it with my own eyes. Because I already knew from everything I'd heard that she'd married the guy for his money. And that the Marion I'd been dreaming about all those years was just another cheap little gold digger. I went up to the big front door and rang the bell. She must have seen me coming up the drive. Because there she was right away to let me in herself. My dream girl, Marion.
Randy.
Hello, Marion.
Hello, Randy.
You mind if I come in?
Of course not. Come on in here. It's a little more private.
What do we need to be private about?
Oh, I thought we'd like to have a little talk.
Sure. Let's have a little talk.
Oh, Randy, please don't be bitter. Don't you see I couldn't help it? Ed's such a wonderful person. I know you'll like him.
I can see why you like him.
No, Randy, it's nothing like that. I thought you were dead, and then Ed came along, and, well, we fell in love, that's all. A person can't help falling in love, can they?
You never tried to find out how dead I was, though, did you?
Oh, Randy, I did. I tried every way there was.
I checked on that. There's no record that you ever tried.
But I did. I swear I did.
Okay, skip it. It's really a lovely place you've got here.
Yes, isn't it? You can see the property better from over here. Ed owns all this part of the valley, clear over to those trees. You can see him up against the mountain, you see? Can you see him?
Uh-huh. What's he do with it all?
Oh, nothing much. You see, Ed's real business is cattle. Of course, this isn't cattle country. He's visiting one of his cattle ranches now.
Oh. He away quite a lot?
Yes. Randy, tell me about you. I saw in the papers the big welcome they gave you and all you'd done out there. It must have been awful.
Wasn't fun.
Well, what are you doing now?
Well, In a way, a thing like that almost pays off.
Pays off?
Uh-huh. All that hero business. I was out there for a commercial aircraft company, selling private planes to sugar growers and gold miners and so on.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing that happens is that the company makes me vice president in charge of sales. $75,000 a year.
$75,000?
Uh-huh. And then the movies want to do my life story. And they discover that I've got such great executive ability, they make me a part-time producer. Another $50,000. Then, of course, a percentage of the picture and the story price itself will come to, about another $250,000.
Why, Randy.
And then, through contacts in the aircraft business, I run into some guys in the oil game. And that pays off. I don't know. I figure I'll be able to retire in 3 or 4 years with a cool $1 million. Oh, make more, of course, if I wanted to stick to it. But why be a hog?
Why, Randy, that's wonderful. I never dreamed.
Right then and there, I knew I had her. I don't know what had made me tell her all those lies to begin with. Just for the satisfaction of watching her show her hand and jump at it, I guess. But now I knew I had her. And as she talked, as I saw that greedy gleam coming into her eyes, I began to know what I was going to do about it.
Well, Randy Judson, a big, rich, famous man. Oh, I'm so happy for you, Randy.
They're even talking about running me for governor. Yeah. Funny things fate does. Well, Marion, I've got to run along.
Oh, Randy, must you?
Yeah. There's a new field we think is coming in today. Net $1 million a year if it does.
Oh, well, all right. I'll walk you to the door.
All right, thanks. Well, goodbye, Marion.
Randy.
What?
Don't you want to kiss me goodbye?
You know I do, Marion.
Oh, Randy. Randy, seeing you again, I'm afraid I made a terrible mistake.
Yes, Marion. I'm afraid you have. I was pretty sure after that all I had to do was wait. There was some truth in what I told her. About 2%. I had been a salesman for a commercial aircraft company, and I still was. And I had a little money, enough to look the part of the big executive when I was around Marion anyway. And, of course, it had to be secret, not only because of Dorothy and of Marion's husband, but because of what I had figured out for later. But as the weeks went by, I saw her, all right. I saw a lot of her and waited. And I didn't have to wait too long.
Oh, Randy, I love you so much.
I know you do, baby.
Randy, what are we going to do?
I don't know, Marion.
Oh, there must be something we can do.
Divorce?
Oh, he'd never give me a divorce, you know that. Never.
Yeah. It's just one of those things, I guess.
Oh, Randy, I can't go on like this. Something's got to happen.
Nothing's going to happen, Marion.
It could.
What could?
Something, anything. Just so I could be free and be with you.
There's only one thing that would do us any good.
Things like that do happen. If somebody makes them happen.
You want to kill him?
Randy, I know it's terrible. I just know it's wicked to even think of such a thing.
But you do.
Yes.
What's stopping you?
Oh, I'm afraid. Alone.
You mean you want to kill him, but you want me to help you to kill him?
Yes. Yes. Yes!
Marion, my dream girl. Oh, I agreed to help her, all right. Sure I did. I planned it for her. First, there was the plane. That was going to do several things for us. And, of course, my being an aircraft salesman made it easy. Marion suddenly became interested in aviation. She began reading about it, hanging around the airports. Then she started taking lessons. She learned fast, too, I'll say that for her. Soloed in 6 hours and had her license in 10. All this time, I stayed out of the picture and just waited. And went out with Dorothy once in a while. This was the build-up. It lasted about 6 weeks until I got her call and went out there. My name is Judson, Mr. Dunham.
Oh, how do you do? I've certainly been hearing a lot about your product lately. Oh, by the way, this is my wife.
Mrs. Dunham?
How do you do, Mr. Judson? Oh, my, she really is a beauty.
It's a two-place job, you see. Plenty of room in the fuselage for baggage.
Uh-huh.
150 horsepower engine, variable prop. She'll cruise at nearly 150, and yet her landing speed isn't much more than 45. And, of course, she has flaps for low-speed landing.
Uh-huh.
I'm really sincere when I say that you can't match her anywhere near in the price field.
Well, I don't know much about it, but if that's what Marion
Oh,
wants...
Ed, you're a darling.
Well, that's the way we like to make a sale. How about a little spin?
I don't know.
Oh, go on, Ed. You gotta begin sometime.
Just
Come
around
on.
the field. Oh, by the way, you've got practically a perfect natural landing field here.
Yeah. Have to put up a hangar, I suppose.
Oh, that won't run you much. Climb in.
Well,
I'll wait right here for you, dear.
There you are.
You keep out of the way now, Marion.
I will.
Oh, by the way, before I take you up, here's a release you have to sign. Just a formality.
Oh?
There's 3 copies. One for me as the pilot, one for the company, and one for the Bureau of Civilian Aeronautics.
Uh-huh. Where do I sign?
Oh, anywhere at the bottom there.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Dunham. Funny. In spite of everything they tell you about reading anything you sign, the average man will glance through the first copy and sign the others without looking, particularly if he's nervous or in a hurry. That's what he did. The first 2 copies were just something I dreamed up, because there's no such release anyway. But the last was a blank piece of paper. And when he signed that, he signed his own death warrant.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you John Lund with Kathy Lewis in A Plain Case of Murder, a radio play by Robert L. Richards. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Between the acts of Suspense, this is Ken Niles for Roma Wines. Next week is National Wine Week, and throughout California, gay festivals will mark the occasion, celebrating the vintage from which will come another taste treasure of fine Roma wines. For this year, as always, Roma master vintners are choosing the choicest grapes of California's richest vineyards to bring you better tasting wines. With unmatched skill and the world's finest winemaking resources, Roma vintners patiently, unhurriedly guide this vast grape treasure to tempting taste perfection. Then, along with Roma wines of years before, this abundance of taste richness awaits selection from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. The result is finer taste, always in every Roma California wine, be it sherry, port, muscatel, burgundy, or sauterne. That's why more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. Let Roma wine add pleasantness and good taste to your living. Tomorrow, enjoy Roma, R-O-M-A. Roma wine, largest selling wine in all history.
And now Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage John Lund as Randy Judson, with Kathy Lewis as Marion Dunham in A Plain Case of Murder. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Let's see what you got.
Here.
To whom it may concern, I can give no reason for what I am about to do, and I pray to heaven the reason will never come to light. But it is the only way. To my loving wife, particularly, I know this will come as a great shock, but at least I can leave her amply provided for. Goodbye, and Edward Dunham. Uh-huh. You sure he is leaving you amply provided for? It would look bad
I
if...
took care of that some time ago.
What about the typewriter? There's no question but what it'll be
He
identified
writes
as his.
stuff on it all the time. He's had it for years.
Oh. You want me to keep this, or will you?
No, I'll keep it.
All right, doesn't matter. You're positive the gun is registered in his name?
Yes.
And he'll be alone tonight?
Yes, we've been through all this.
I know. But I don't want any mistakes. This is no penny ante. Now, you got your reservations?
Yeah, I checked again this morning.
Okay. Now, you better leave in plenty of time. You want to be sure and make Phoenix before that little airport closes down.
I know.
I'll come down back of the house tonight a little beforehand, say 12:45. Be sure you don't use any throttle coming in. A long glide. Cut your motor as far out as you can.
Yeah, I will.
I'll be on time. You've got to get back to Phoenix before daylight. And when you put through that call to me, lay it on thick.
I will.
And don't worry.
I'm not worried.
No, I don't think you are. The wheels were moving. Complicated, but good. We'd been over it enough, rehearsed it line by line, so I knew exactly what she'd be doing and saying almost every minute. First, she'd be circling that little airport about a mile from the hotel and sounding as though she was in trouble. A little trick of thinning out the mixture that I'd showed her. And then she'd be coming in for a landing, taxiing over to the hangar. That would be a little before 5.
Hey, sounds like she's acting up on you, huh?
Yeah, she is. I didn't think I was going to make it.
Oh, carburation, maybe.
Exhaust valve sticking, I think.
Yeah, that could be it, all right. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, you staying in Phoenix?
For a few days. Can I leave it here?
Oh, sure. Tomorrow, first thing, I'll get a man out.
No, I'm going to get the man down here who sold it to me. I've only flown it about 8 hours.
Oh, gee, it shouldn't be doing that.
I'll say it shouldn't. Is there anybody here at night?
No, I'm sorry, ma'am. I come on again at 8 in the morning.
Well, he may be down here before that, because I'm going to get him out of bed if it's the last thing I do. It's a brand new $6,500 airplane.
Oh, I don't blame you. Well, in case you're out here before I am, I'll give you the key to the shop, so if there's anything you need...
Thanks. Don't bother now. Just send it around the hotel.
Okay. Where are you staying?
Desert Inn, Mrs. Marion Dunham. Hello.
This is the hotel operator, Mrs. Dunham. I have your call to Los Angeles now.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Go ahead, Los Angeles.
Hello?
Mr. Judson, this is Marion Dunham.
Who? Oh, how do you do, Mrs. Dunham?
I don't do so well, Mr. Judson. In fact, if you ask me, I'm lucky to be alive.
What?
I'm mad, Mr. Judson. I think I've got a right to be. I started out for Phoenix today in that airplane you sold me. I just barely made it. I don't see why a brand new $6,500 airplane could possibly...
Well, I can't understand it, Mrs. Dunham. What seemed to be the trouble?
Well, an exhaust valve or two just burned up, apparently. Plane's absolutely useless to me in the condition it's in now. I doubt if it'd even get off the ground.
Oh, I quite understand, Mrs. Dunham. I'll send a man down
I don't want
first
just
thing.
a man. I think you ought to come down here and look at it yourself, Mr. Judson.
I should come. Why, there's nothing in particular that I could
Well,
do.
are you responsible for these planes you sell to people, Mr. Judson, or aren't you?
Well, Oh, all right, Mrs. Dunham. I'll be down first thing in the morning. Where are you staying?
The Desert Inn.
The Desert Inn. All right, Mrs. Dunham. Tomorrow morning, then.
Well, thank you, Mr. Judson. Good night.
Good night, Mrs. Dunham.
Did you get your call to Los Angeles, Mrs. Dunham?
Yes, thank you. But is the doctor on his way up here? Oh, never mind. That must be him. Thank you. Come in.
Mrs. Dunham?
Yes, come in, doctor. I'm awfully sorry to bother you, doctor, but I've got a frightful headache. I flew in from Los Angeles today, and something went wrong with my plane. I suppose it's just nerves, but I was wondering if you could give me something to help me sleep.
Why, certainly, Miss Dunham.
Thank you.
We've got just the thing for you right here. Here, take one of these, or two if you think you need them.
Well, I'd better take two.
Well, they're pretty strong.
How long will they make me sleep?
You'll be dead to the world for a good 8 or 9 hours, particularly if you take two.
Well, thank you, doctor. I'll go in and take them right now. Would you mind hanging that do not disturb sign on the door when you go out?
Oh, not at all, Miss Dunham. Not. Good night.
Good night, doctor.
I was at the field back of our house a little ahead of time. And I had a little bottle of chloroform in my pocket. Oh, the plan was all right. Like I say, it was perfect. But it was just a little bit too perfect for Marion. Because when they found her lying there beside the corpse, every one of those little steps she'd taken to give herself an alibi would prove that she'd planned it. Premeditated. Murder in the first degree. They'd say it went wrong only because her husband managed to knock her cold before he died. The suicide note? There wouldn't be any. I'd see to that. And I'd even be a witness against her. Because instead of flying down to Phoenix with a couple of burned valves in my pocket to support her alibi, I'd fly down there and find there wasn't any plane or any Marion. And when she started that last walk to the gas chamber, maybe she'd begin to realize what I'd been through. My dream girl. I knew she'd sneaked out of the hotel a good 2 hours ago. And sure enough, I heard the motor. Then I heard her cut it. Then she was gliding in. And then we were walking together over towards the darkened house.
Yes, everything went all right.
What's the matter with you? You haven't spoken a civil word to me yet.
Oh, I was just nervous, I guess.
You got your key?
Yes, I got it. Be quiet now. This way.
It's dark. I got a flash.
No. Knock something over.
Who's there?
Walk him.
Who is it?
I'll have to go to him and stall him somehow.
All right.
Get in there. Get into the closet. Quick.
Okay.
It's me, Ed.
Oh, what in the world are you doing, Bob?
It seemed like an hour that I was in there, straining to hear and not being able to. She'd done it. I heard her running down the hall. She'd done it. I had my hand on the doorknob and was just about to step out when there was a click, and the knob wouldn't turn. Marion! 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 That was the front door. I was locked in and she was gone. For a moment, I almost fainted. Because I could see just how she'd planned it. Just what I'd planned to do to her. She'd fly back to Phoenix and then put in a call to her husband on some pretext, and she wouldn't get any answer, and pretend to be worried and call the cops. And they'd find me. They'd say I killed him and then got in a panic and locked myself in the closet by mistake. It was a spring lock, and it could happen. The door was solid. Oak, at least 2 inches thick. I went frantically through my pockets for something to work in the lock with. It was no good. But I did find my pocket knife. There was just one chance. I had about 3 hours to whittle a hole through that door big enough for me to get my hand through. I went to work. 10 minutes, my clothes were wringing wet. In 20 minutes, I thought I was going to die of exhaustion. And I'd hardly begun. Somehow, I kept going. Then the knife blade broke. I was almost crying. I opened the small blade and kept on. My hand was raw with broken blisters. The second blade broke. I kept on with the stump of the big one. Hours passed, it seemed. And then, at last, I was through. But the hole wasn't big enough yet. More hours. And then I tore half the skin off my hand and got it through. I opened the door. I was free. As I started out the front door, the phone rang in the hall. I picked it up and listened.
Phoenix, Arizona, calling Mr. Edward Dunham. Hello? Hello? Operator?
I put the phone quietly back. That would be Marion. That meant that she'd call the cops next. They'd be out to investigate. I only had a few minutes left, but there was still my plane. I started running across the field to where it stood. If I could get off in that plane, I had a chance, a good... And then I stopped. Marion. She'd fly back. She'd land right on this very field. Sure enough, in about 20 minutes, the cops came. Then more cops. From homicide, I suppose. They prowled all over the place, but they didn't find me. I was hidden in that little clump of trees. And pretty soon, they went away. And I waited. 3 hours more. Then I heard it. Marion's plane. And then I saw her coming into land. I was out there and up on the wing before she even rolled to a stop.
Randy!
The double cross, huh?
You're a fine one to talk. You and your Dorothy. I suppose you thought I didn't know about her, that you got engaged to her the very day that you were going to frame me, weren't you? Well, I beat you to it and you'll die. Do you hear me? You'll die.
dead when I let go of her. My dream girl. I had to get out of there. The cops had seen her land. They must have seen me, too, because they were running out on the field and began shooting as I took off. But something was wrong. Maybe Marion had even figured on this. I don't know. I remember fighting to pull it up, and then those trees coming at me. And the crash, and the fire.
You got all that, Scotty?
I got it.
How is he, Doc?
Not so good.
Here, Judson. Sign here.
Sure. I'll sign.
Hurry up, sign it.
Sign.
Hey, Doc.
He's gone.
Dead, huh?
Dead.
Fine thing. I got a confession and no one to sign it.
What's the difference? You got witnesses.
Yeah. Plain case of murder. Spelled Plane. Very, very funny.
Suspense. Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. And now this is Ken Niles bringing back to our Suspense microphone our star of the evening, John Lund. John, may we all congratulate you on a swell job of acting. And may I, too, offer you the thanks of the Roma Wine Company with this gift basket of Roma wine.
Oh, thanks a lot, Ken. And my thanks to Roma for the basket. You know, at this point, I should be able to ad-lib an immortal line about wine. But all I can think of is a jug of wine, a loaf of bread, and now. And I don't recall whether Omer Khayyam specified Roma wine or not.
Well, John, if Omer were living today, I'm sure he would specify Roma. Because for both host and guest, there's real pleasure in the tempting nut-like taste of Roma California sherry. Golden amber Roma sherry assures tasteful, gracious hospitality for the party giver, satisfying enjoyment for guests.
And now, Roma wine. R-O-M-A, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. Roma Wines presents Suspense. Tonight, Roma Wines bring you The Man Who Thought He Was Edward G. Robinson. A suspense play in Spear. Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A. Roma Wines. Those excellent California wines that can add so much pleasantness to the way you live, to your happiness in entertaining guests, to your enjoyment of everyday meals. Yes, right now, a glassful would be very pleasant, as Roma Wines bring you Edward G. Robinson as both himself and as a certain Mr. Homer J. Hubbard, a man who thought he was Edward G. Robinson, in this remarkable tale of Suspense. Now, well, I'm making this statement in accordance with a promise to a very dear friend. It is a complete statement in every detail, even including those matters which are to me personally incriminating. Because my trust in my friend is such that I haven't the slightest concern on that score or any other. What follows concerns primarily two persons. Myself, Homer J. Hubbard, and my wife, Ada Sampsey Hubbard. Even when I was courting Ada, I was aware that hers was a strong and domineering personality, to say the least. And after we were married, well, at first I put up with Ada's constant nagging and petty persecutions as best I could. I put up with them for 5 long years. It wasn't until a memorable evening in 1930 that the first dim outlines of an escape and finally a plan began to take shape in my mind. Ada and I had gone to the movies to see a picture called Little Caesar, with an actor in it whom I had never heard of before. Oh, so you thought you ran on me, huh? Well, get this. Nobody rats on Little Caesar, see? The moment I saw that face on the screen, the minute I heard that voice, the world of reality around me simply ceased to exist. I lived that picture. I was Little Caesar. I was Edward G. Robinson. I was dimly conscious that my voice was like his, that even my face without my spectacles and with my hair parted differently might have been mistaken for his. But it was more than that. It was his personality that fascinated me, and that I assumed. Calm, assured, tough. The kind of a man who made people do what he wanted done, the way he wanted it done. Walking out of the movie theater, I knew something had happened that was going to change my whole life.
There. Little Caesar, they call him, and well, they name. What's his name? Edwin G. Robertson?
Edward G. Robinson.
Oh, Edward Robertson. Well, I'll wait. You'll be hearing plenty about him from now on. He's no Casper Milquetoast.
Yes, dear.
Is that all you have to say? Yes, dear.
Well,
What does it take to arouse a little enthusiasm in you anyway? Here you've seen a fine performance. A picture that would get anybody in the world excited, and all you can say is, yes, dear.
Yes, dear.
Oh, I wish you were half the man that Robinson is.
But from that moment, I no longer really cared what Ada wished or thought. I had begun my escape into a dream world of my own making, a world in which I was Edward G. Robinson. As the weeks went by, I began to identify myself with him more and more. I imagined myself in countless dangerous situations, and when no one was looking, I imitated him and affected his mannerisms. I would start daydreaming at my desk, wondering what the other people in the office would think if I suddenly exposed this hidden side of my personality.
Is he suddenly going crazy? What's the matter with him?
Okay, everybody. Now stay where you are. Hold your hands over your head. I don't want any monkey business, see? Now stand back there, Ryan. Any funny stuff from you, and I'll let you have it.
Hubbard, this is preposterous. What do you mean by such behavior? Is this your idea of a joke?
You'll see whether it's a joke or not if you make one false move. Now, this isn't a water pistol I'm holding here, you know.
Hubbard, you're fired. Leave this office immediately.
Fired. I'm getting out, all right, but I'm not fired, see? I'm leaving Royal Hill, and that's where you come in, Mr. Ryan.
Oh, please, Hubbard. Oh, now be reasonable.
Now, shut up. Do what I tell you. Keep your hands up in the air. Walk over to that safe.
You better do it.
Come on, open it up. Get all the money out of it.
Oh, no.
Right here on the desk in front of me.
Now get going.
All right.
I don't want to have any trouble with you, Ryan. I've got to count 3, and if you're not moving when I finish, you'll never move again. 3. 1. Hubbard. 2. Hubbard. 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 What are you doing daydreaming like that? You better get busy, or I shall be forced to report you to Mr. Pemberton again.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ryan. I'm terribly sorry. I can't understand what could have come over me. Well, that's the way it went. At the office, walking down the street, riding home on the bus. My life, outwardly calm and well-ordered, possibly even dull, was actually 24 hours of harrowing adventure with myself as the central figure. I saw every Edward G. Robinson picture that came out. It was the day after seeing Brother Orchid for the 3rd time that Ada finally caught me. I was shaving that morning and talking to myself.
Okay, all right. You asked for it. Now, if you don't come out, we're coming in and get you, see? And we're coming in shooting. What's that? Oh, yeah? And only a dirty yellow rat would say that. Okay, boys, let him have it.
Of all the fool performances I ever heard of, this beats all. What in the world are you jabbering about in here?
Huh? Oh. Well, it's really nothing, dear. I was just sort of trying to imitate Edward G. Robinson.
You want what?
Yes.
Edward G. Robinson?
Right.
Oh, that's rich. Oh, I can't stand it. You trying to imitate Edward G. Robinson.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I can't stand it. But don't stop. Don't let me interrupt the performance, Mr. Movie Star.
Oh, please.
Come on. Do your act for me.
Well, dear, I don't see anything so funny about it.
Well, maybe you don't, but you're the only person in the world who wouldn't. Well, I leave you to your rehearsing. But why don't you imitate Donald's niece or Shirley Temple? I think you'll find it easier.
It was right then that I decided to kill her. For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you The Man Who Thought He Was Edward G. Robinson, a radio play by Leslie Raditz. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense. Between the acts of Suspense, this is Ken Niles with a friendly suggestion. When friends make you feel perfectly at home, no matter how unexpected your visit, that's hospitality. Such is the hospitality of millions of Americans who always keep Roma wines on hand. For there's a Roma California wine to please any guest on every occasion. For friendly entertaining, serve Roma Sherry or Muscatel. For gracious dining, enjoy Roma Burgundy or Sauterne. Whichever Roma wine you choose, you're sure of finer taste every time. For to bring you better tasting wines, Roma Master Vintners, with America's finest winemaking resources, guide California's choicest grapes to tempting taste perfection. Then, along with Roma wines of years before, this rich taste treasure awaits selection from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. That's why Roma wines are always better tasting. Proof? More Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. So insist on Roma. R-O-M-A. Roma wine. Largest selling wines in all history.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Edward G. Robinson, appearing as both himself and as Homer J. Hubbard, the man who thought he was Edward G. Robinson, in a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
I might have decided to have mercy on her if she'd only let me alone. But Ada could never leave anyone alone. She ridiculed me at home and in front of our friends. Sometimes she would let a few weeks go by without saying anything, and I would think that perhaps she'd forgotten. But Ada never forgot. She would wait until we were in a group of people, and then she would come out with it.
Why, my dear, you mean I haven't told you about Homer's dream world? He thinks he's Edward G. Robinson. Tell us, Mr. Homer G. Robinson, when do you think you'll be getting your next contract from Hollywood? Oh, you folks have got Homer all wrong. He's a killer at heart. Just a cold-blooded killer.
I want to buy a gun.
Sure, Bud. What kind of a gun?
Well, I don't know much about guns, but that one looks all right.
Oh, yeah. It is a nice little gun. 2850.
Do I have to have a license?
No, not unless you're going to carry it on your person. Otherwise, we just register it for the police records under your name. What's the name?
Edward G. Robinson.
Huh?
You heard me, Mug. Edward G. Robinson. See?
Oh, I had made my plans very carefully. My plan was that her murder would look like suicide. It would be a night when the moon was full so that I could see ahead on the pillow and aim carefully. I would fire the shot, quickly wipe my fingerprints from the handle of the gun, then push it into her hand. Then, as the shocked and bereaved husband, I would call Dr. Wallace. The police wouldn't come until later, and when they did, I would be ready for them. I was so busy laying my plans that I hadn't been reading the papers and had to be told the big news.
Homer, I beg your pardon, Mr. Robinson. Would you mind passing the spinnies? That is, if you're not too preoccupied in planning your next murder.
Yes. You held up any banks lately, Homer?
Here you are, dear.
Say, that reminds me.
Yes?
All kidding to one side, as a fellow says. Did you know that he's going to be here in town next week?
Who? What?
Edward G. Robinson. He's going to address the hobbyist convention.
That's so.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to hear him.
I would, too. I'd like to see what a real He-Man is like, not just a poor imitation.
We went. And at first, it was the most terrible disappointment of my life. Because he wasn't tough or hard-boiled or anything like it. He seemed to be a mild-mannered man, a little shy, almost like me. And he talked about orchids and modern art. They were his hobbies, he said, raising orchids and collecting paintings, modern paintings. But as the lecture went on, I began to understand, and by the time it was over, I knew.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, I consider myself quite blessed. Every man is blessed who has a hobby, but I am among the fortunate few who has two hobbies. And as the fellow said, whose fiancée had a twin sister... I see you already know it. I love them both. Thank you.
Later that evening, I made an excuse to get away from Ada and went down to the hotel where I knew Mr. Robinson was staying. I bribed a bellboy $1.75 to tell me which was his room. I went down the hall and knocked at the door of 708.
Yeah?
Western Union.
Oh, come on in.
Just put it on the... Well, say, Western Union dresses their boys up pretty snappy in this town, don't they? And I must apologize for adopting the subterfuge, Mr. Robinson, but I have something of the utmost importance to discuss with you, and I was afraid that you might not see me since we have never been formally introduced.
Formally introduced? Why, that's all. What is it, autograph?
Well, I'm afraid it's something a good deal more serious than that, Mr. Robinson.
Yeah? Well, you caught me right in the middle of shaving, as you see, but if you don't mind my finishing the job while you talk, why, come right along inside. Tell me all about it.
Thank you.
Now, what's on your mind?
Mr. Robinson, I have a problem. I have followed your career since its earliest fame. That is why I feel that you will be able to tell me what to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, what is the problem?
Well, Mr. Robinson, suppose, this is purely hypothetical, of course. But suppose you were going to kill somebody.
Kill somebody?
Yes. In your own home. Somebody who is, shall we say, related to you.
Yeah, now, hold on a minute, Mr.
Hubbard. Homer J. Hubbard.
Mr. Hubbard. Well, I may look like a bad guy on the screen, but when I'm not working, I'm just a plain, peaceful, even living citizen, just like anybody else.
You can fool people like that audience tonight with all that talk about orchids and modern art. And it was very good, and I quite understand why you do it. A man in your position must have a front, of course. Yes, but you didn't fool me. I know. Rather, I knew that I could come to you and be perfectly frank.
Yeah, what about?
Why, about the murder.
About the what?
Look at me, Mr. Robinson. I'm a shy, inhibited, weak, utterly ineffectual person. I've none of your assurance, your hardness, your ability to cope with any situation the direct, the ruthless way. How many times I wished I had. Because for 20 years my life has been made horribly, unbearably miserable by one person. My wife.
Oh, so that's the way it is.
Yes. Yes, for years I bore it as best I could. And then one day I thought, how would you have coped with it? And of course I knew at once. You would kill her.
Hey, now, wait a minute. Say, are you kidding me?
Oh, no, Mr. Robinson. I wouldn't think of such a thing. Look here. I've even secured a gun to do it with.
Yeah, you better give me that thing. No, don't point it. Hand it to me by the barrel. Now, we'll put it over here. Safer, you know.
Yes, I must admit, I know very little about firearms, and they're quite distasteful to me.
Yes, you and me both. I mean, small arms like that. Of course, a Tommy gun, that's different. That's the only thing to use.
Yeah. Yes, I suppose you're right. But I didn't know where to get a Tommy gun. And I was afraid even if I did, I'd never master the art of using it.
Yes, well, now you want to kill your wife, is that it? You want me to help you?
If you would, Mr. Robinson, if you could spare the time. I can't tell you how grateful I'd be.
Well, you know, Mr. Hubbard, you look like a pretty nice little guy. Your wife must really be an old battle axe to have got you in a frame of mind like this. All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will help you.
Oh, Mr. Robinson.
Yes, but it's got to be done my way, see? It's got to be done right. You got to plan these things. Now, take this gat, for instance. That's no kind of a rod to kill your wife with. Why, the caliber is all wrong. The ballistics would be all wrong. The dicks would be on your tail just like that. Now, I got a gat home that's perfect for this job, get me? I've knocked off Humphrey Bogart, Orson Welles, Jimmy Cagney, I don't know how many guys with it. Now, the first thing when I get home, I'll send it to you, parcel post.
Would you, Mr. Robinson?
Oh, sure. Now, when you get it, you just lay low, see? Now, don't do a thing till you hear from me. I'll lay this thing out with some of my boys, and then I'll get in touch with you. Okay?
Oh, Mr. Robinson, I don't know how to thank you.
Oh, forget it, pal. Forget it. What's a little murder between friends?
I could scarcely maintain my composure in the 2 days that followed. The second day, sure enough, the gun arrived. It was a great, heavy thing, the kind that is referred to, I think, as an automatic. Yes, that's it. Remembering its history, I handled it with the utmost care and reverence. I hid it in the garage where I keep my pipe, but Ada won't let me smoke. It was the next afternoon, Saturday, that the phone rang. I rushed into the bedroom to answer it and closed the door after me so Ada wouldn't hear in case it was.
Hello, Homer?
Yes?
Well, this is Eddie.
Eddie?
Yeah, Eddie Robinson.
Oh, yes, Mr. Eddie.
Did you get the package I sent you?
Yes, I got it.
Okay, now, but don't fool around with it, see, until the time comes. It's kind of tricky.
Oh, no, I won't.
Now, listen, if we're going to do this, the sooner the better. The deadline is tomorrow night, midnight. Now, here's the layout. You go to bed just the same as you always do, but have that gas handy and leave the front door open. Oh, say, I meant to ask you, is it safe to talk where you are?
Oh, yes. The phone's in the bedroom and the door is closed.
Oh, the bedroom, eh? Oh, that's swell. Now, listen, a little before midnight now, you get up. She's asleep, of course. Now, you take a spot just outside the bedroom door where you can keep an eye on her, and on the front door, too, see?
Yes?
At midnight, I'll contact you. We'll do the job and make a quick getaway, and you can hole up in the hideout I got until the heat's off. Get it? Tomorrow night, midnight.
I'll do everything just as you say, Eddie. I followed his instructions to the letter. Well, it seemed hours before Ada went to sleep that night. It seemed days until my watch finally crept around towards midnight. But at last the time had come. I crept out of bed, got the gun out of my coat pocket, and took my position on the landing outside the bedroom door as he had told me to. And then suddenly the stillness was shattered by the ringing of the phone. Oh, I was in utter panic. This was one of those unforeseen things that can ruin even the best of plans. Even plans made by Edward G. Robinson. I rushed back into the bedroom, hoping against hope that I could catch it before Ada woke up. But she already had the light on.
Oh. What in the world are you doing prowling around at this time of night with a gun in your hand?
Why, I thought I heard a burglar.
Burglar?
Yes.
I've answered this phone. I want to talk to you, Homer Jeremiah Hubbard.
Yes, dear.
Hello. Yes? What? Oh, Homer, there is a burglar. Someone just saw him trying to get into the house.
Are you sure?
Of course I am. Somebody just phoned that they saw him. Well, don't stand there. You've got a gun. Go down there and stop him.
Oh, but Ada...
Go on. You want us to be killed in our beds? Go on, I say.
Oh, Ada, why do you have to spoil everything? She pushed me out. There was nothing to do but go. I crept down the stairs in the darkness. I knew what Edward G. Robinson would have done. He would have gone down and captured the burglar without the slightest trouble and turned him over to the police after giving him the beating he deserved. But somehow I didn't feel much like Edward G. Robinson just then. It was at that moment that the terrible thought occurred to me that maybe it wasn't a burglar. Maybe this was Edward G. Robinson. I had no time to pursue the thought further.
There he is.
Suddenly there was a barrage of shots and a confused yelling of voices. In my terror, I suppose I must have squeezed the trigger of my own gun because it began jumping and flaming in my hand. I tripped on something, and the next thing I knew, I was tumbling headlong down the stairs. And that was the last I remembered. When I woke up, Ada was holding my head in her arms, and she was crying. They made me stay in bed for a couple of days, but I really didn't mind. They were reported to see me and take my picture for the paper, and all kinds of people, even Mr. Ryan and Mr. Pemberton, came to see me. And Ada? Well, Ada was simply a changed person. Nothing was too good for me. My slightest wish was literally her command. If the whole thing hadn't been an accident, if I'd planned it that way, it couldn't have turned out better. And then, as the final climax that afternoon, when the phone rang by my bed... Yes? Oh, yes. Mr. Eddie. You did, eh? Who is it? Quiet. It was nothing, really. Yeah? Well, about that, things have changed. Quiet now. Will you be quiet when I'm talking to somebody else? Yes. Now, don't get me all excited. Excuse me. Mr. Eddie. Yes, they've changed quite a lot. I don't think we'll have to go through with it. That's right. Oh, sure. She's right here. Just a minute. Eddie wants to talk to you.
Eddie?
Yeah, sure. Eddie Robinson. Quite a pal of mine.
You mean Edward G. Robinson?
Oh, yes, the Robin. You know, we had quite a little chat that night. He was in town after I left you. We got pretty chummy. Here. She's going to talk to you, Eddie.
Yes. Hello. Oh, yes. Yes, Mr. Robinson. Oh, I know he is. Oh, I certainly will, Mr. Robinson. Oh, I know I'm lucky. All right, Mr. Robinson. Goodbye. Oh, Homer. He knew all about it. He'd seen it in the paper.
Yeah, so he said.
And he said you were a hero, a real hero. Bigger than any movie hero that ever was.
He did, huh?
Oh, Homer.
Well, if Eddie Robinson says I'm a hero, I guess maybe I am. It couldn't have turned out better, Eddie, and you know how grateful I am. I'm a regular little Caesar around town now. My married life is all I've ever wanted it to be. Because there are some things about the whole thing that confuse me a little. It has even occurred to me, I will confess, that you might have had more of a hand in it than was generally known. That the gun you sent me might have contained blanks, I believe you called them, don't you? Because in spite of all the shooting, there wasn't one bullet hole anywhere in the house, and the gun had disappeared, which confused the police somewhat, too. And that the burglars might have been some of your boys playing a little joke. Yes, but I don't think you'd do a thing like that to us, would you? No, I don't even think you would use the statement that you asked me to send you to hold over my head as a guarantee that I wouldn't try to kill Eddie again. Not that I ever would. But even if you did all that, Eddie, I don't really mind. Because, as you might say yourself, what's a little joke between pals? Suspense. Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. And now, this is Ken Niles with a double helping of compliments for you, Mr. Robinson, for your excellent performances in both the roles you played tonight. And here's a note from the control room. Bill Spear, our producer-director, says you sounded remarkably authentic as Edward G. Robinson, and very sincere as the little man who wanted to be. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Niles, and a bow to you, Bill. And, Eddie, since you're one of Hollywood's most celebrated hosts, we know you'll enjoy this gift basket of Roma, California wines. Well, a handsome gift, Ken, and many thanks. Here's the bottle of Roma Burgundy Bill Spear suggested we serve tomorrow night if Mrs. Robinson can get any meat. Well, Eddie, during these shortage days, when you rarely find the porterhouse steak or juicy roast you want, Roma Burgundy rescues many a meal. For robust Roma Burgundy, with its tempting taste harmonies for hearty meals, makes ordinary pot roast as flavorful as roast beef. Yes, the fine taste of Roma Burgundy brings out all the subtle, hidden flavors in food. Adds richly to mealtime pleasure. Sounds mighty good. Well, Roma Burgundy is mighty good because only Roma, America's greatest vintner, selects from the world's greatest reserves of fine wine. Only Roma possesses so vast a treasure. That's why every Roma wine is better tasting every time. No wonder more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. Well, you've convinced me, Ken. And now tell me, who stars on Suspense next Thursday? It's that very lovely and very talented actress, Miss Susan Hayward. Well. In a play about a wife, a husband, a blackmailer, and a remarkably ingenious murder plot. I think you'll want to listen, Eddie. Well, why should I want to be different from everybody else in the country, Ken? I certainly will listen. Good night. Good night, Eddie. And we're looking forward to seeing you in your new Thalia production, The Red House. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Miss Susan Hayward as star of Suspense. Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. In the coming weeks, Suspense will present such stars as Judy Garland, Jack Carson, Brian Dunleavy, Cary Grant, Roddy McDowell, and others. Make it a point to listen each Thursday to Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. Roma Wines present Suspense.
Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Miss Susan Hayward as star of Dame Fortune, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spear.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those excellent California wines that can add so much pleasantness to the way you live, to your happiness in entertaining guests, to your enjoyment of everyday meals. Yes, right now, a glassful would be very pleasant as Roma Wines bring you Susan Hayward in a remarkable tale of suspense.
Nobody's believed this so far, but maybe someday somebody will. Not that it really matters. It's just something to do to pass the time while I'm waiting. It was our 5th anniversary, and we were having a party. And as usual, partly because a ham is always a ham no matter how long they've been out of the business, and partly because it's really easier to go ahead and do it than to spend your whole evening refusing, I was supplying the entertainment. But each time I do, just the thought of you makes me stop before I begin, 'cause I've got you under my skin, 'cause I've got you under my skin.
Well, certainly, why do you think I married her? Broadway's loss was Nicholson's gain.
Oh, darling, for someone who's been married to me for 5 whole years, you still say some awfully nice things.
Well, why not, darling? Oh, say, Gene, sing You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To. Say, you were in that show, weren't you? What was the name of it?
Oh, no, dear. Frank had already snatched me from my career by that time.
Oh, Gene, dear, you're wanted on the phone.
Phone? At this hour? Who is it?
I don't know, dear. It's a man. Probably one of your old admirers.
Don't be silly. All my old admirers gave up ages ago.
All right, I'll take your word for it, my sweet. Now you'd better go see who it is.
Don't anybody go away. I'll be right back.
Now, can I buy you a drink?
Hello?
Hello, Jane.
Who's this?
Perhaps I should say Mrs. Nicholson. You're not Jean Marley anymore, are you?
Who is this? Is there something I can do for you? I'm rather busy right now.
I was afraid you might forget me. I've been away such a long time. This is Charlie.
Charlie?
Charlie Prescott. Of the San Quentin Prescotts. You remember now, don't you? Still there, aren't you, Jane?
Yes, I'm still here.
You surprised?
So you're back.
Out is what we call it, sweetheart. Only yesterday. And I want to see you.
Oh, no, Charlie, that's all over.
You mean you don't want to see me?
Save it, Charlie. I suppose I knew all along this would happen someday. When'll it be?
Well, the sooner the better. How about tomorrow?
I can't tomorrow. Make it Wednesday in the afternoon.
Say 3 o'clock? Same old place?
No, not there.
All right. What about the Shangri-La?
All right.
You be sure and be there, won't you, sweetheart? Because if you aren't, I'm going to feel very bad.
I'll be there.
3 o'clock then, sweetheart.
3 o'clock.
Well, who was it, darling? Anyone I know?
No, just an old friend.
Oh, well, why didn't you ask him over?
Oh, he was just passing through town and wanted to say hello, that's all.
Well, maybe some other time.
Yes, some other time. Don't let anybody tell you that prison doesn't change people. It does. And Charlie'd had 7 years of it. It's not just the prison pallor they always tell you about, or the extra dividends and gray hair. It's something else. An expression in the eyes. And more than that, something I didn't figure out until quite a while later.
Well, I'll say you're looking great, sweetheart.
Let's cut out the compliments, Charlie. You don't mean them, and neither do I.
Oh, now, wait a minute, sweetheart. Don't get me wrong. You don't think I'm sore about anything? Like, say, because you're married? Now, you don't think that, do you?
Why should you be? You knew I wasn't going to wait around for you. It was never that serious between us.
That's what I'm saying. Why, I'm tickled pink you married the guy. Particularly since I hear he's really in the dough, huh? But good.
The trouble with you blackmailers is that you
Oh,
think...
that's a nasty word, sweetheart.
The trouble with you blackmailers is that you think all a woman with a wealthy husband has to do is just run down to the cellar and bring up a basketful any time she wants to. It's not like that. He spends the money, I don't.
No joint bank account?
Sure. And what do you think happens when all of a sudden $200 or $300 a month just starts disappearing?
Well, I wasn't thinking of hundreds, sweetheart.
Oh, no, of course not. And the bigger you think, the harder it gets. Don't you see that?
Well, he's got a will, hasn't he?
I suppose so.
Don't stall, sweetheart. You know he has. You know what's in it. All goes to you, doesn't it?
Yes. I guess it does.
You know it does.
And you want a cut?
I want half.
Before taxes are deducted or after?
Don't get wise. I did a lot of figuring where I was, sweetheart, and I figured you owed me something. I figured you owed me plenty.
Well, you're going to have a long time to wait for it, darling. I say about 30 years, because he's healthy as a horse.
Who said anything about waiting?
You do have big ideas, don't you?
You like it?
You don't really think I'm going to become a party to the murder of my own husband, do you?
Sweetheart, you mustn't use those words.
You must have gone a little crazy up there, Charlie.
And who said anything about your being a party to it?
Oh, you handle it. I just wait. Is that it?
Oh, of course, I know it's not as big a part of the job as you handled the last time, but that's the general idea, sweetheart. What do you say?
What do you think?
Sweetheart, did you ever stop to figure out what they'd give you if they found out?
I don't know.
I do. Same as they give me. Maybe more.
Listen, Charlie. Suppose I told you I love him.
You? I wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it if he combined the best features of John D. Rockefeller, Albert Einstein, and Clark Gable.
No, I suppose you wouldn't.
Well, that's the way it is, sweetheart. That way or the other. Make up your mind.
It would have to be an accident.
That's okay. It could be an accident.
All right, Charlie. You win. There's only one way that I know of to deal with blackmail. Agree to the terms first and find an out afterwards. And that's how I'd planned to play it. I will confess that the murder of my husband for his estate was a little stiffer price than I'd been prepared for. But by the time I left, I knew how I was going to play that, too. Charlie'd never been quite as smart as he thought he was. That's one reason why he went to prison and I didn't. That evening after dinner, I went in to see my husband in his study.
Oh, hello, darling.
Frank, there's something I have to tell you.
Well, what is it, darling?
It's pretty serious.
Well, all right. What is it?
Frank, I'm being blackmailed.
What? Blackmail?
Darling, this is going to hurt you. Afterward, you can do anything you like. But I know the only sensible thing and the only decent thing is to tell you the whole story.
Jean, no matter what it is, no matter what, I love you, darling. And that's all that really matters. Do you understand that?
Yes, dear. Frank, a number of years ago, before I knew you, I had some trouble. Bad trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I was just a kid, and, well, I got mixed up with the wrong man. His name was Charles Prescott. I didn't know how wrong he was until someone got killed.
Oh.
Charlie managed to convince a jury, more or less, that it was accidental. His sentence was from 10 to 20 years. He got 3 years off for good behavior. Frank, he's out of prison now, and he has evidence that I was involved. That I was involved much more than ever came out in the trial. Well, that's the story.
Well, that's not so bad, darling. What's his price?
His price is... Oh, Frank.
Oh, come there, darling. It's all right. It's all right. Now, come on. Tell me the whole thing.
His price is that he plans to murder you and make me give him half of what I inherit.
Good Lord, Jean, the man must be crazy.
Well, that's just it. He is. He's just crazy enough to try it. He's been planning some sort of an accident. Oh, Frank, I'm frightened.
Now, darling, don't you worry a bit. I know how to handle this.
Oh, Frank, not the police.
No, darling, no. Not the police.
Early the next morning, we were visited by a chunky little man named Sparks from the Continental Detective Agency. I told him the story, or most of it. And all the time I was talking, he kept watching my husband. I got the impression he might be a little difficult to deal with. As it turned out, I wasn't far wrong.
It's a good story, Mr. Nicholson, but it's not right.
Not right? What do you mean?
Well, for instance, why don't you go to the police?
Well, I've told you, it's a case of blackmail.
But it's not just a case of blackmail.
Hmm?
According to your wife, here's an ex-con with 13 years still hanging over him out on parole, and he's threatening your life. We can throw him back in the can just like that.
Look, Mr. Sparks, you don't have to know all my family affairs to handle this case, do you?
No, but it would help.
Suffice it to say that it's a delicate matter. We can't go to the police.
Then perhaps you'd better tell me just how you do want me to handle it.
I want you to locate him and then follow him day and night. Never let him out of your sight. Eventually, I suppose, he'll try it.
To kill you.
Oh, Frank.
Now, Jean, darling, remember you were going to let me handle this.
I know, but...
But don't you see, dear, if we actually catch him in the act attempted murder, then we can send him back to prison and nobody would ever believe anything he said.
Must be a very delicate matter.
It is, Mr. Sparks.
Well, you'll hear from me.
Mr. Sparks, suppose he should try to contact me.
You mean you think he'll try to shake you down beforehand anyway, just for luck?
Well, you see, he thinks I've agreed with his plan, the accident.
Well, the way we're handling it, there's only one thing to do. Play him along.
I see. Well, is that all the information you'll need, Mr. Sparks?
If that's all you'll give me, that's all I need.
By Friday night, they'd located Charlie. By Monday morning, they knew more about him than his own mother. Frank took the train for San Francisco that night. He wasn't due back until Wednesday morning. Tuesday afternoon, Charlie called me, as I told him to.
Hello?
Hello, Charlie.
Oh, hello, sweetheart. Everything in order?
Yes.
You got that, what you said you'd get for me?
Yes, I got it.
Well, I hope you got enough, because what I mean is, it's going to be, well, expenses.
Expenses?
Yeah, I got to make contacts. You know, I don't let anybody else in, but I'm going to need a little outside help on one or two things.
Oh, I see.
These things take time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe quite a while. I'm not stalling, you understand, but you can't expect action on a thing like this right away.
I think I understand.
Maybe 2, 3 weeks, maybe more. It's got to be laid out right, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Well, where can I pick it up, the stuff you got for me?
You can come out here.
Out there?
Yes, this evening about 10. There'll be no one here.
No, listen, I don't think that's so good.
Well, you're not afraid, are you, Charlie?
No.
Besides,
no,
you ought to see the layout of things. It might give you some angles.
Well, yeah, but
you remember what we said about how it had to be done?
You mean accident?
That's right.
Sure.
You'll be here at 10, Charlie. I'll have everything ready for you. I knew then what prison had done to Charlie. He'd lost his nerve. Now that he faced it, murder was too much for him. He'd never go through with it. It would all come down to one petty shakedown after another, year after year. It was even more obvious now that I'd have to do what I'd counted on right from the beginning. If my husband was to be murdered, he'd have to be murdered by me.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Susan Hayward in Dame Fortune. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Between the acts of Suspense, this is Ken Niles for Roma Wines. Next Thursday, ghosts and goblins will haunt your street. It's Halloween. A good night for grown-ups to remain safely inside, entertaining a few trusted friends. A good night to serve Roma wines, so delicious with snacks or sandwiches. Yes, Roma wines add friendly companionship to any occasion. And with Roma California Sherry, Port, or Muscatel, you're sure to please every guest because more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. The reason? Roma wines taste better. Yes, Roma wines are better tasting. First, because Roma starts with California's choicest grapes. Second, because Roma, with America's finest winemaking resources, guides this luscious grape treasure unhurriedly to tempting taste perfection. Third, because only Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. Delight your Halloween guests with better tasting Roma wines. Tomorrow, ask for Roma. R-O-M-A. Roma wines. Largest selling wines in America.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Susan Hayward in Dame Fortune, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Charlie arrived that evening in a rented car, right on time. As I opened the door to him, I noticed another car just putting out its headlights about a quarter of a mile down the hill from our driveway. That would be Mr. Sparks. Charlie had never seen the house before, and he was impressed, but a little nervous. I took him into the drawing room.
Hey, quite a layout you got here, sweetheart.
Well, Frank likes to have the best of everything, and he can afford it. Sit down.
Well, I can't stay but a minute or two.
What's the matter with you, Charlie? You seem jumpy.
Oh, me? Why should I be jumpy?
I don't know.
I'll tell you something, though. What's the clock? I have had the funny idea somebody was following me the last couple of days.
Who'd want to follow you?
That's what I can't figure. I'm clean with the local dicks. They don't tail you unless they think you're working on a job. Nobody else would want to tail me. Unless I've been double-crossed by somebody. Like you, sweetheart.
But if I double-crossed you, you'd see that I was sent to the penitentiary. Wouldn't you, Charlie?
I would devote my entire time to it, sweetheart.
And that's why I wouldn't double-cross you, isn't it, Charlie?
Yeah, I guess you're smart enough to see that, all right. You got the dough?
Yes, I've got it.
How much?
$1,000.
Well,
Oh, I know you'll be around shaking me down for more before you get around to business. But that'll hold you for a while, won't it?
Oh, sure. Well, I better be moving. Where's the dough?
I don't have it here.
You don't?
No, it's in the car. Frank was home for a while, and I didn't want to bring it into the house. He's inclined to be snoopy sometimes.
Well, let's get it.
You can get it on the way out. It's in the glove compartment.
No, wait a minute. I'm not so sure I like this.
Oh, don't be silly. The car's in the garage and nobody's around. It's chilly, and I just don't want to go out there, that's all. It's the Cadillac convertible.
Yeah. I guess you're in no spot to pull any fast ones at that, are you, sweetheart? Okay. You'll be hearing from me.
Yes, Charlie, I'm sure I will. Through the glass panel by the door, I watched him head for the garage. Somewhere out there in the darkness, I knew that Mr. Sparks would be watching him, too. Then I buzzed the house phone for Olson, the chauffeur. He lived over the garage.
Olson speaking.
Olson, this is Mrs. Nicholson. I'm awfully sorry to disturb you, but I just happened to glance out of the window, and I thought I saw a man prowling around in the garage.
A man?
Yes. I suppose it's silly of me, but would you mind looking out your window and see if you notice anything?
Sure, Mrs. Nicholson. Say, Mrs. Nicholson, that's right. I seen him.
Mm-hmm.
He was running away. You want me to go after him?
Oh, he was running away, huh?
Sure, he was running plenty, but maybe I can catch him.
No, that's all right. If he was running away, I'm sure he won't come back. There's nothing he could take out there.
If you want, I'd be glad to.
Oh, no, that's all right. I'm sorry to have bothered you, Olson. Good night.
Good night, Mrs. Nicholson.
I waited almost 2 hours until I was sure Olson would be asleep. Then I went out to the garage myself. I'd taken a course in automobile mechanics during the war. I hadn't learned much, but I'd learned enough to know what would make a steering knuckle fall apart after about an hour or two of hard driving. And Frank was driving down to San Diego the next morning, as soon as he got back from San Francisco. And Frank was a hard driver. Frank left the next morning on schedule. I won't say it was pleasant waiting. I paced the living room and the hall for almost an hour, but never more than 10 steps from the telephone.
Hello?
Jane?
Yes?
Oh, this is Charlie. Jane, I gotta talk to you.
I can't talk to you now.
Listen, I gotta tell you something.
I can't talk to you now. I began my pacing again. The phone rang 3 more times in the next 15 minutes, but I didn't answer it. Then it stopped. Almost 3 hours went by. I'd begun to be afraid that one of those other phone calls had been the one I was expecting. And then it rang again. Hello?
I'd like to speak to Mrs. Frank Nicholson, please.
This is she.
Mrs. Nicholson, this is Dr. Whitty of the La Jolla General Hospital. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, Mrs. Nicholson, but there's been an accident. Your husband.
My husband? But is he...
Well, it's hard to tell just yet, Mrs. Nicholson, but I think you had better come down here.
I got out the sedan and started for La Jolla. I was terribly nervous and depressed. I crept along at no more than 40 miles an hour. Somehow I got there. They showed me directly to Frank's room. He was covered with bandages, but he was sitting up in bed. And with him was Mr. Sparks.
Hello, Jean.
Frank, are you... Oh, Frank.
Not too bad. A couple of ribs and an arm.
Oh, darling.
They thought I had a fractured skull for a while, but I guess I have a pretty hard head.
Darling, what happened?
Well, something went wrong with the car, Jean. I was going pretty fast. I'm lucky to be alive, I guess.
Charles. Prescott. Frank, I saw a man prowling around the house garage last night. Olson saw him, too.
You think Prescott might have tampered with the car?
Oh, Frank, I told you not to go through with this thing.
Well, I don't know. What do you think of that theory, Mr. Sparks? Oh, you remember Mr. Sparks, don't you, Jean?
Of course I do.
It couldn't have been Prescott, Mr. Nicholson. He never got into the garage. I was right behind him. Guess maybe he heard me. Anyway, he beat it.
I understand you were in the garage last night, Jean. Isn't that correct, Mr. Sparks?
We had another man posted on the grounds, and that's what he reports.
Of course I was. There was a book I wanted in the car.
There was $1,000 in currency in the glove compartment, too.
Yes, I know. I didn't have time to tell you this morning, but he wanted money. I talked him out of it. Mr. Sparks knew he was at the house. You told me to see him if he... Frank, you don't think that I...
I don't want to think so, Jean.
Oh, how could you? How could you?
It's just that steering knuckles don't usually come loose by themselves. That and all the rest of it.
Well, then it must have been an accident. A real accident. Don't you see that? Oh, Frank, how could you believe that I'd do a thing like that? I love you.
I know. I've thought and thought and thought. Everything Mr. Sparks has told me. Oh, I can't believe it, Jean.
Mr. Sparks, you don't think I could have done anything like that? You can't.
It's just a matter of your beliefs, I guess.
Beliefs?
What you want to believe, and who you want to believe in. My office will send you a bill, Mr. Nicholson. Good day.
Oh, Frank, darling.
I'm sorry, Jean. Oh, I'm horribly sorry. It's just that it looked bad, and I wanted to hear you say you didn't, dear.
Oh, I didn't. You know I didn't.
Of course I do. Oh, look, darling, look. Come on, cheer up. Look, I've got a plan.
A plan?
Yes. We need a vacation. I'll be out of here in a week or so, and we'll go away, darling. Just drive around the country, do a little hunting and fishing, whatever we like. You always used to love those trips.
Oh, yes, Frank. Let's.
Sure, darling. We'll just go off and take it easy for a while and forget the whole thing.
Yes, let's. And forget the whole thing. That's what we did. And I almost did forget the whole thing, too. It seemed like a nightmare that I dreamed a long, long time ago. I couldn't believe that I'd really done what I'd done. And I knew I'd never do it again. As though by mutual consent we never spoke another word about it. But I was at peace for the first time since I could remember. And I knew that even Charlie could be dealt with somehow when we got home. We drove all over the state for almost 3 weeks. And on the way back, we stopped over at a little lake in the Sierras. We rode across it one day and had a picnic lunch on the other side. It was so beautiful and peaceful. There wasn't another soul around for miles. Frank still had the cast on his left arm. It made him a little clumsy. Getting back into the boat again, he stumbled over the shotgun, pulled it up against the seat. I knew he was dead even before I got to him. At police headquarters, they questioned me a little while, and then they left me in the room alone. But a few minutes later, the door opened. Somebody came in. It was Mr. Sparks.
Well, so you finally did it.
Oh, no. No.
The trouble with you amateurs is you don't know your case histories. That hunting accident gag is too old, Mrs. Nicholson. Much too old.
Oh, but I didn't. I swear. I swear to you I didn't.
Well, you got the money now anyway. At least you can hire yourself a flock of good lawyers.
Please. Please, don't do that. I can't bear it. I didn't do it, I tell you. You can ask Charlie. Charlie Prescott.
Charles Prescott killed himself this morning when the police arrived to question him.
Oh.
Look, Mrs. Nicholson, I'm in this thing up to my neck, unfortunately. I'm going to have to tell what I know. And I know somebody tampered with the steering knuckle on that car, and it wasn't Prescott. I know you tried to kill your husband and put it on to Prescott. It just doesn't add up any other way.
Oh, right. Yes, I did. But I didn't do the other. You've got to believe me. I didn't.
You didn't shoot him, huh?
By all that's sacred in the world. I swear I didn't.
Could be.
Oh, you do believe me. Say you believe me.
What's the difference? Nobody else will.
Well, that's all. Except my execution will be on the 31st. 1 week from today.
Suspense. Presented by Roma Wines. R-O-M-A. Made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. And now, this is Ken Niles returning for the curtain call with the lovely star of tonight's suspense play, Miss Susan Hayward. Susan, we think you are wonderful.
Well, it was a wonderful part, Ken.
And for your grand performance, Susan, here's a gift basket of Roma wines with Roma's compliments.
Well, thank you very much. Ken, will you grant me one tiny favor?
Certainly. Just name it.
Well, I'm simply fascinated by the way your narrator says suspense. Ask him to say it again, huh? Just for me.
Oh, for you, Susan, he'd probably say it in Technicolor. Joe?
Suspense.
And, Susan, you needn't be in suspense about what to serve when friends drop in, for the Roma California Sherry in your gift basket is the favorite of millions for afternoon or evening entertaining. And Roma Sherry is the perfect first call for dinner.
Roma Sherry. I'll remember, Ken.
And when you serve Roma Sherry, Susan, your guests will remember its finer taste. For to make Roma Sherry better tasting, Roma vintners select California's choicest grapes. Then, with America's finest wine-making resources, Roma guides this grape treasure to tempting taste richness. Later, Roma selects from this world's greatest reserves of fine wines for your pleasure. No wonder more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine.
That's a real recommendation. And now tell me, Ken, who'll be on Suspense next week?
Well, next week it's Brian Donlevy in a suspense play about a man upon whom a freak of nature confers a terrifying attribute. He is a human lie detector. It's impossible for him to hear a falsehood without instantly knowing it and revealing the deception.
Terrifying is right. Well, I'll certainly be listening. And that's no lie.
Thanks, Susan. And we're looking forward to seeing you in the Walter Wanger production, Smash Up.
Thank you, Ken. Good night, everybody.
Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Mr. Brian Donlevy as star of Suspense.
Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.